You ever have one of those nights where you're dreaming of peace? Just you, the lake, stars overhead, and then bam, suddenly it all turns into a crime scene. And you're the criminal? That's what happened to me. One second, I'm camped by the water where 3 generations of my family have fished and found comfort. And the next, I've got 2 cops shining flashlights in my face, barking about criminal trespass on my own damn land. You can't make this stuff up. Let me back up a sec. My name's Beckett Northwood, and my grandfather carved that lake out of wild prairie with his bare hands and borrowed tools, back when FDR was still fixing the country. 80 years, Northwood hands have worked and bled and fished this ground. But now, the HOA says they own it. Yeah, that happened. They actually called the police on me for sleeping where my grandfather used to lay his head. I didn't know it yet, but I was about to trip over a conspiracy so big it'd make your head spin. I remember staring at the dying campfire, embers barely hanging on, casting crazy shadows over the water. I'd come out here to get away from work, 48 hours where nobody expected me to put down an old dog or break bad news to a family. Instead, I'm being treated like a vagrant, my hands shaking as I try to keep my voice steady for the officers. The crickets even went quiet, like nature itself knew something was wrong. Officers, I said, trying not to sound desperate. There's a serious misunderstanding here. My name is Beckett Northwood. My family's owned this land since 1943. The younger cop, Ryan, is already annoyed, tapping his flashlight like he's keeping tempo. Sir, the HOA filed a complaint. We've got documentation. That word, documentation, it stuck in the air, thick as smoke. The older guy, Miller, steps in, looks at me with a little more empathy, but says, son, property lines change. The HOA's been managing this area since 2018. It's all on record. Since 2018, I've been camping here every summer since I was 12 years old. My hands, rough from years as a vet, clenched up on their own. The radio crackled. Sir, we're not here to debate property law. You can pack up, or we can arrest you. Tap, 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 that flashlight beat. I looked at my sleeping bag, still warm from dreams that, just a few minutes earlier, felt so damn safe. Criminal trespass. The absurdity hit me hard. I thought of my daughter, Tegan, maybe getting a call that her old man got locked up for sleeping by the lake where his own father taught him to fish. The scent of honeysuckle floated on the breeze, the same flowers Grandpa pointed out to me as a kid. Somewhere in the dark, an owl called. Grandpa always said owls see what others miss. Officers, you're just doing your job. I managed, though my throat felt raw. But before you arrest a man for sleeping where he belongs, maybe figure out what's really going on. Ryan steps away to answer the radio. And for a second, I'm just subject again, not Beckett, not the man whose blood and sweat soaked this ground. Miller must have sensed my desperation. Mr. Northwood, he said quietly. The complaint came from Serafina Maddox. She's the HOA president, and she's not letting this go. I'd never even met her. She had the power to send cops to my campsite. With a phone call, rolling up that sleeping bag felt like surrender. The tent stakes coming out of the ground made a sick, wet sound. Reminded me of pulling quills out of a hurt dog's muzzle. Necessary but brutal. I packed up in silence, tossed my gear in the truck. This isn't over, I told Miller. He nodded, almost like he was sorry. Driving home, headlights cutting through back roads. I tasted injustice so sharp I had to shut off the radio. By the time I got home, the sky was bleeding pink and orange, but there was no peace. I headed straight for the basement, where boxes of family records waited, my father's careful handwriting still visible on the labels. Land teaches you who you are, Grandpa's voice echoed in my head. But don't let anyone steal what your sweat earned. I spent hours digging through dusty boxes, old surveys, tax records, letters, anything to prove this land was ours. The smell of ancient paper filled the air. My hands shook as I found the original survey from 1943, my grandfather's pencil marks, every boundary, every fence, every note. Lake completed October 1943. 20 feet deep, spring-fed, stocked with base from Willow Creek. It was all there, in his own handwriting. And it wasn't just the map. There were letters, my grandfather writing to the county about making the lake a conservation area for the birds. For the future. Even back then, he was thinking beyond himself. The county's reply? We'll notify you. But the paper trail just stops, like the conversation got cut off by time. More. Receipts, cement mixers, cottonwood seedlings, duck decoys, fence posts. Every penny poured into making the land better. Tax assessments for artificial pond, private property, year after year. All paid, never missed. The timeline stretched out on the card table like a chain. My grandfather, my father, then me. Unbroken, except for this nightmare. Then came the photos. Black and white at. First, Grandpa standing by a giant hole, dirt-streaked, sleeves rolled, proud. Next, the lake half full, raw banks, neighbors helping, promises traded for fishing rights. But the one that got me was Grandpa holding my dad, both of them smiling, lake sparkling behind them. Robert, age 3, first base, 2 pounds. You could almost hear the laughter. Those weren't just pictures. They were proof. I kept digging. Letters from my dad to government agencies, talking about water rights, about wildlife. Even a thank you from the Fish and Wildlife Service. Your family stewardship is an example. To others, there were federal tax incentives, conservation programs. Hell, our private lake was serving a public good. But how the hell could an HOA, formed in 2018, claim it all? I spread out the records, decades of tax bills, always in the Northwood name, always recognizing our rights. Then, another folder, county records, but now I noticed weird inconsistencies. Property transfers dated wrong. Environmental reviews rushed through in weeks when they should have taken months. It didn't add up. I needed help. My neighbor, a retired county engineer, reached out after hearing about my situation. We met at the old diner, back booth, hushed voices. There's a pattern here, Beckett, he said. Development agreements, fake assessments, signatures that look too similar. Someone's been tampering with the records. He slid me a manila folder, copies of documents that should have never existed. You're not the only one either. I've tracked other families losing land the same way. We started digging. Turns out, original environmental protections had been quietly scrubbed from the digital system. Old paper files removed or hidden. He even found a map from the county Surveyor's Office, 1944, listing our lake as a protected private water feature. The more we found, the clearer it got. This wasn't just a neighborly spat. This was organized theft, backed by big money. I thought it was just about my grandfather's lake. But my neighbor showed me a spreadsheet. All these other cases, land quietly reclassified, passed to HOAs tied to the same developers. It was a racket, and the paper trail pointed straight to Serafina Maddox and her pals. We needed more. So, late one night, I met with a woman from the county archives, a lifer. Been there forever. She passed me a sealed envelope, my grandfather's original conservation application, the county's approval, letters showing federal environmental protection status since 1988. She also handed over emails showing collusion between county officials and developers. Money, favors, approvals rushed through for the right people. It hit me. This was federal. Our lake wasn't just family land. It was protected habitat. That meant any attempt to build, develop, or even change it without federal approval was a crime. The very next day, the attack went public. Social media posts painted me as some dangerous vagrant, my daughter called, shaken. Local businesses started turning me away. My daughter got fired from her vet tech job. Legal threats piled up, lawsuits, restraining orders, accusations of terrorist threats. The HOA was trying to crush me. But with every threat, I just got more stubborn. You know what I mean? At my lowest, I got a text from the county archivist. Meet me at the old grain elevator. She handed me a box, hundreds of pages, federal protection orders, conservation easements, bank statements showing payoffs to HOA board members. Even a recorded call where Maddox and a county planner openly discussed how to eliminate me as an obstacle. She warned me, if you take this to federal investigators, your life will never be the same. But it's the only way. I thought about Grandpa, about my daughter, about everyone who lost their land because they didn't have the proof or the fight in them. I wasn't about to back down. The showdown happened at the emergency HOA meeting. The place was packed, residents, press, even a few county officials trying to blend in. Maddox put on a show, selling her amenity project as a gift to the community, painting me as the villain holding back progress. But when she called for the vote, I stood up. I held up my envelope, full of federal documents and bank records. I told the whole room what was happening. I played the recording, her voice plotting my destruction. The county archivist stood with me, backing up every claim. Residents erupted, some in shock, some in anger, all realizing they'd nearly been dragged into a federal crime ring. 3 weeks later, federal agents swept in. Maddox and her husband arrested for environmental fraud and racketeering. The developer? Fined, banned for life from public contracts. County officials charged and exposed. My neighbor, the engineer, released, charges dropped, and later elected HOA president. On a platform of accountability, the community offered my family a formal apology and a settlement. More importantly, they changed the rules: mandatory environmental reviews, transparency, protection for whistleblowers. My daughter got her job back, with a raise. Old friends who'd avoided me started coming around again. Still, trust doesn't repair overnight. Now, every morning, I sit by the lake Grandpa built. Tegan joins me, fishing lines in the water. The herons and owls are back, the wildflowers bloom again. Our land's protected forever, a county heritage site, never to be bulldozed or paved. You know, justice moves slow as a tired turtle sometimes, but when it shows up, it changes everything. Other families got their land back. Federal investigators cleaned house. The archivist got promoted and funded to guard those records like a pit bull with a bone. So here I am, sitting by the water, thinking about everything we almost lost and what it took to win it back. Not just for us, but for everybody who believes some things shouldn't be for sale. My grandpa would be proud. And before I let you go, let me just ask, where do you stand? Would you have fought? Would you risk everything for justice? Or let them take what's yours? Drop your thoughts below, tell me your stories. Like, comment, and share if you think the little guy still deserves a shot at justice. Because in the end, that's all that keeps this country honest.